My name is Sara Vase. I am going to give you a short and sweet class on textured glaze, which once upon a time was a very big product, and it has dwindled down to Mako has 3 textured glazes on page 26 in their color guide. There is a black, a beige, and a white, and I'm using the white to create the colors that once upon a time we had, like 15 or 16 different colors. They're referred to as astro gems, and I am using the opal white, and I have a small half jar here. I always like the turquoise texture glaze, and it can go on bisque or it can go on greenware. If you put it on greenware, do not cover the whole piece in it. Do not put it on the bottom whether you are working in bisque or greenware. It is a rough texture and it will scrape or scratch the surface that you put it on, especially your good furniture. I am using Doc Holliday's mold. It is a flared looking vase. It's uneven. I think it's kind of a nice shape. I kind of like the non-traditional straight. And it is comes in 4 sizes, I believe, from a very, very small up to a very large. This one, I have put my textured glaze, the first 3 coats of textured glaze I have sponged on. Here is a side that I have not finished, that I'm going to show you how to sponge. You can brush on this if you'd like, but if you sponge, it gives you a much rougher texture, which I prefer. I mixed my white opal with a turquoise translucent underglaze, which Duncan sells in their Easy Strokes. You can add drops, and when you finish, you come up with a color that's pretty dark. If it is not dark enough for you when you fire it and you want to go back, you can take it straight out of the bottle and paint it or sponge it on your surface. I am going to stir this, make sure that I've got everything stirred up that kind of drifts to the bottom, because it is a heavy glaze. Excuse me. Use a small sponge. If you prefer to sponge, use a small sponge. If you use something this size, it's going to soak up all your color. If you can cut this into shapes to get a small sponge, that's fine. It can either be a natural sponge like this or a man-made sponge. I'm going to dip a little bit in here. Now you notice I didn't go all the way down on the sponge. I don't want to do that. And I have rinsed out my sponge, and I have wrapped it in a paper towel to get most of the moisture out. Okay, when you're sponging, overlap your area. You notice, let me spray this right quick so you can see, so I don't spray myself in the face. You can see here where the line is that you want to overlap. You want this coat to go over the other coat. You can start at the bottom and work up if you'd like, or top and work down. Turn your sponge as you're working so you can squeeze out all the moisture that may have been left. When you get to the top, you have a decision to make here. If you notice, the inside, this is a stroke and coat number 10, SC number 10, and it's a Till Tomorrow, I believe it's the cutesy name for it. Basically, it's a teal color or a turquoise color. I have taken my textured glaze up to this outside edge right here. On the inside, I roll the glaze over the top, because this is going to receive an overglaze, and I want the overglaze to go on the SC because if you put mother of pearl on a textured glaze, it just burns off because there is nothing for it to adhere to. So I'm going up here to the top, and if it makes it easier for you, turn it to the side and get up to the edge, like so. You can see it'll be, as you sponge, you can see it gets a little thinner. So turn your sponge and kind of squeeze it besides just pouncing. And that's what you do for all 3 coats. I sponged on 3 coats of the textured glaze. And I sponged it on the outside, and I started at the bottom and went up. I went to my edge right here. Now, if you think you went over, you can take this end of your sponge, which is not used, doesn't have glaze in it, and when you finish, you can go along and take maybe some of that excess that got over. It will wipe off. Of course, you let this dry. You let these coats dry. Very important that they do. And while they are drying, you can take your stroking coat SC10 till next time. I'm sorry, got that cutesy name wrong. And you can brush on 3 coats on the inside. When you brush it on, bring it all the way up, and if you'll use a nice square brush like this, when you come up, if you just kind of turn it on its side and move it this way, it will take care and put the stroking coat on there. When I put 4 coats on because I wanted it to be really, really dark. Then I put 1 thin coat of Mako's Crystal Clear over it and let it dry. Now this piece is going to really be wet at this stage because you've done the outside and now you've done the inside. But we will push ahead to our next step. Textured part of this part right here, the pattern on the outside, I want to show you how to mix that because that will be our next step of putting on product. You get to work out all your tensions when you do this. Oh, and you might want to look now that this has been fired. This is the color that the SC10 produces on the inside of the vase. I'll put this over here for a minute. Okay. You are going to take some broken pieces of bisque, something you had left over, say from a broken pot or something, and I take it and I put it in a heavy old towel, get a hammer, and I just take out all my tensions that day and I just beat it to death. And you may get larger. You'll look at this. You see there's some larger chunks. You might want to take those out. They're a little heavy, a little big. You can also strain it if you would like to get the dust out, but it's not necessary. It just all depends upon how textured you would like your design to be. The more texture, the more reflection you get when you put the mother of pearl on it. So I know this sounds strange and people will tell you you don't put mother of pearl on textured glaze. That is correct. We are not putting mother of pearl on textured glaze. We are putting on our bisque mixture with glaze. Okay, you take this and you take some, I use Pastel Jade Mako FN Foundation 214, and I mixed it with my bisque and it looks like this. Now yes, it's really thick. You can, if you think it's if it looks a little thick to you, and remember you're going to put on at least a couple, maybe 3 coats of this. So you want it kind of fluid. So if you want to mist it a little bit, just put a little bit of water in there. You can take it and mix it. See how tight that is? Of course this bottle is full, but if you notice, if you go down, it gets more fluid. down toward the top. So you want that glaze mixed so it covers as much bisque. It might be better for you to do it in a small bowl. Like maybe if you're doing a small piece, you might want to get a little wide mouth like this and mix it a little bit at a time. It's up to you. It is, of course, it washes off, but don't put this down your sink, okay? It's not, it's put your washed utensils and brushes and stuff, you might want to do it outside so you don't get this in your sink area. I always tell people that because they end up pouring this down their garbage disposal and then they wonder why it sounds like something is attacking your sink when they turn the garbage disposal on. Okay, I have stirred this a good bit. I'm going to lay this down right here. Now, remember we have put our 4 coats on here, sponged or brushed. We have brushed on our Till Next Time stroking coat and put a clear glaze over it and brought our outside textured glaze up to this side. Inside comes and kind of goes over this curve. Remember, if you're brushing and if you take this brush and you pull it up, you get a nice heavy coat, pull it up. When you pull it up, if you kind of just turn it on its side, it automatically hits that edge and makes it very, very easy to cover that curve because that's where you're going to put your mother of pearl. Okay, now I take a pencil. For demonstration purposes, I did just a simple up and down sort of, oops, excuse me, sort of a simple up and down design, sort of like mountains, kind of. Now, I grant you, my design is going to be wider than this, so you don't want to get it too far up here. If you have a specific design that you would rather put on, you can transfer it on to the textured glaze. There is no problem there. You can do it. Remember, you're working on top of product, so if you want to transfer it with an ultrafine Sharpie, it will burn off. You're not working directly onto the bisque. If you want to transfer flowers or paint flowers, you can do a design like that and work your sort of textured crushed bisque around that design. It's up to you. All right. I like to use this brush right here to begin with, to put it on. My first coat, I kind of shovel it out, and now lay your piece, this is very important, lay your piece on its side. I know that it's been wet, that's why you must have this dry. And if you would like, when it dries, you can fire it like to 018, and it gives sort of a non-matured finish, but it's not breakable, it's not chippable as much as it would be if you had not. So your color underneath does not move. 018, if you do that, it's called setting your colors. So I'm taking this and I'm putting it, if you notice that first coat doesn't have many bumps in it. And when I do that, I do it for a reason. So this is kind of a base catch-all for the other coats. And I like it pointed, so I try to put a point by turning the brush sideways. Do not use a good brush to do this with. This stuff has a lot of sharp edges and it's very rough and it's very thick. So use an inexpensive brush, or if you're good with a palette knife, maybe you'd like to use a palette knife. But make sure if you do use a stencil of some type that it is flat. Now that's hard to do on this curved surface, so remember that. Now you're going to keep doing this right here until you get a nice fat layer. I want as much of this as I can. See, you can start piling that on, and you see all the broken pieces of bisque, little and big. In my lesson plan, I did not give you all, and I apologize, but I'll show you now. When textured glazes were the thing, were all the rave, they had an element in them called frit. This is frit. I don't know if you've ever used this before, but as you see, it's crushed glass, and this is the medium frit. It comes in powder, comes in several different consistencies. So once upon a time, as I said, when we had frit in our textured glaze, when OSHA decided that we were dangerous and they made us change all our formulas, they took the frit out. But when we had it, it would, when you finished putting on your textured glaze, you could take a flat sponge like this, and you could wet it, wring it out in a paper towel, and you could wipe along the top of the glaze, and the glass would show, and you could, when you put your mother of pearl on, it adhered to that, even out here on this surface. So what you can do, if you would like that effect, when you're, say, your last coat, you can take your frit. This is just clear. This is not a colored frit, although frit does come in a multitude of colors. And you can sprinkle it. It will adhere. Because see, this is still wet. You can adhere this frit, and it will soak down into the glaze. Now when all of this dries, and it does take an extended amount of time for it to dry, don't put it under a fan. You can set it next to, don't put it in the sunshine. You can set it next to a warm window, or you can have a fan, but you can turn the fan at an angle so it doesn't go on here, because what happens, the outside dries quicker than the inside and starts to come off. So you have it pulling away from your first coat. If you'll just put your fan at an angle, having it like going up to the ceiling, and there's just a, just a slight breeze falling over, it will dry. And that's what you need to do. You need to, when you get all these coats on there, you need to set this over to the side, find something to do for a day, if the ideal thing. If you're teaching this in a class, you may have to, rush it up a little bit. But when you're home and you're doing this, or you're creating your sample for this class, set this aside and let it dry. Because remember, you've got 4 coats of glaze on here that you've sponged on with a sponge. You have at least 3 to 4 coats on here that's really building up, and you've got to let this dry from the inside out. Now, if you want to, I'll tell you a way to speed this up. You can put your fan like right here. You can turn your piece like this. Put something under here so all of your design doesn't hit here, maybe a folded wash rag, and let the fan blow in here. That way it'll dry this side, inside, even the core, to the outside. That might speed things up. But the ideal thing would be to do, if you're doing this in a class, do this piece first, set it aside, and then do your other pieces. When this dries, you're ready. You are ready to fire it to an 04. If you've done it in bisque, you can fire your glaze to an 06. If you've done this in greenware, you need to fire it at this stage in an 04. It will not hurt the glazes to fire them at an 04. They're very stable. You might get a little less color. Now, I want to show you, while this is kind of drying for here for a minute, if you do your mixture of your white textured glaze and your turquoise easy stroke translucent glaze and it looks pastel, you put it on and it still looks pastel. I'll wet this a little bit so you can see the darker. Alright, what I did to make the turquoise darker, straight from the bottle, after I had this all applied and it's all dried, I take my easy stroke, make sure I've got it up to the top, and I put some easy stroke in a small well, paint well, and with a nice soft brush. I would suggest you use a brush a little bit bigger than this. I'm not going to do this all over, so I've got a smaller brush. Take your brush, take your easy stroke straight from the bottle, give it a little moisture. Now you can paint on top of this to make it darker. Just go down and paint on top. Now if you want to sponge this on, you can sponge it on, just like this. That's going to cause your textured glaze to go darker. If you mix your textured glaze, when you are sponging the textured glaze tinted with easy stroke, if you put more easy stroke, it breaks down the glaze. So what you do is you get your base on there and you can just take straight easy stroke, excuse me, and sponge it on. Now if you want to, here's something you might like to do. You can take the white opal, which is this color right here, and you can sponge it on. Then you can take your kind of hard to tell. So if you do mix color with the beige or with the black, I would suggest you do it on a little piece and test it. Fire it on 206 and see how dark your color is. I like it dark. Now, if you get up here and this is kind of vague, you can take your brush. You're not too concerned with how smooth it is because it's textured. You don't want a big glob. And then if you want to put your darker glaze mixture with your bisque over this, if you think one application of this will darken it to the point you want it to be, then you can apply this mixture. If you notice, this piece right here has the spare. For those of you who do not pour, every mold has a spare. It has some excess at the top. What I did to this is I took the spare, and I'm sorry about the breakage, but I took the spare and I left it on there and I cleaned it and I put holes in here because when you make a flower arrangement, you can put flowers in these holes as well as here, and these will stand up straight. So if you want to make it darker and you paint with your easy stroke directly onto your textured glaze, it can dry a little bit if you want it to, but you can put your mixture over that. You'll have contrast because this is going to be, here's the finished piece. This is going to be shiny when you get, it'll be shiny because it's glazed. The inside is shiny because it has glaze on it. But the iridescence you get is from the mother of pearl. So even though you think, oh, that background's too dark, no, you'll have a difference in texture and surface. So you will have a matte texture in the background. You will have a shiny, textured, iridescent on your design. Like I said, you can do, and you can even, let me move this little goodie out of the way here. You can move this down here on the white if you want to and have it come up like this, or whatever design you choose to use. But these, now this right here on this spare, if you do pour your own molds, what I wanted to do with it is I wanted to put just clear glaze on it, and I will put a dark teal on the inside of this, and then I will put mother of pearl up here, and it will make it just a large area of mother of pearl. Whereas on this right here, your mother of pearl is on your textured, and this small overlap of glaze on the edge right here. Now, for those of you who have never used mother of pearl, I know you experienced ceramicists probably can go get a drink of water at this time or whatever. I think for safety's sake, I need to explain something to you. For those of you who have not used it, let me cover parts of this. Mother of pearl gives an iridescence, and I use Duncan, and I also have some Hanovia, but I don't know where to tell you to get Hanovia unless it might be from Glasner Ceramic Supply. They have a wonderful website for all kinds of ceramic supplies, so you might try them. But mother of pearl requires its own brush. You'll get a brush that you will use only for mother of pearl. Not a brush that you have used on previous products, but a brand new brush. Does not have to be expensive, it just has to be a nice clean brush that won't deteriorate the first time you use it, and it should be soft. When you put on your mother of pearl, you need to be in a well-ventilated area. It will tell you that on some of the directions on the bottles, but I know that from past experience. Now, to clean your mother of pearl out of your brush, you'll need to get some essence, and it is a cleaner for your brush. Once you've finished your mother of pearl application, you clean your brush, you get as much of the color out as you possibly can with your essence. I just use this bottle right here. This right here is my essence, and I wash out my brush, and this is my essence cleaner for my mother of pearl. I don't use this essence for my gold or my silver or whatever. This belongs to mother of pearl. So I just wash out my brush in this, then I take a paper towel and I wipe it real good. I might take a little soap and water after that and try to wash it, wrap it in a paper towel, dry it out. Then I wrap it in foil, so dust and normal oil and everything from your hands or from your area not get on it. The other thing I'd like to caution you about, when you do your mother of pearl and you've got this texture right here all on there and you fired it, before you use your mother of pearl, just take some alcohol on some You can do it on a sponge if you want to, but it's got to be a new sponge. But I took alcohol and I got a cotton ball. Don't rub back and forth, just press and pull, because if you do that, strings of the cotton catch. So you can just spot it. Now the reason you're doing that is to take the oil off of whatever was on your hands that you might have touched, because that oil will reject your mother of pearl. So you want to clean this off with alcohol. It dries very quickly. It evaporates. You may smell it. That doesn't mean it's there. And then that's when you apply your mother of pearl. Now, your mother of pearl, when you apply it, you cannot go over it when it is tacky or sticky. And what you do is you take your mother of pearl, you put your brush in your mother of pearl, and you go over it. Don't panic getting it on the textured glaze. It will not adhere to the textured glaze and will fire off. So you don't have to be real careful, but don't be chalky looking, and that's not what you want. So you can put on a second coat of mother of pearl if you feel like you got it too thin, but you must fire that first coat, that first application, and then do the second. It's the same thing. You can take your mother of pearl, and if you want a mother of pearl all the inside, the glaze you have on this inside will take mother of pearl. It's really very attractive. It might get a little expensive, so I didn't do mother of pearl on the inside, but I did do mother of pearl on this overlap up here. I took my brush, I laid it on its side, and I ran it like this. Now if it runs, it doesn't matter. If it gets on this, it's going to burn off. But I wanted this edge to be mother of pearl, so I did that. Like I said, if you want to, you can mother of pearl the whole inside, but that gets a little expensive. Just to warn you. The last thing that I do on this piece is I turn it upside down. I glaze the bottom. Do not put textured glaze on the bottom of your piece. It will scratch your furniture. What I did is I put on a coat, a couple of coats of just straight easy stroke. I carved my name in it, let it dry, and then I put 2 very thin coats of clear glaze over that. Let it dry, because this you must stilt when you put it in your kiln. So when that's dry, I'm ready to stilt it and put it in the kiln. Like I said, if you start with greenware, which you can, you are going to have to fire, and you're going to have to fire that greenware. And if you fire it to an 04, the color may fade a little bit, but it'll be fine. I started with a bisque piece, and then when I get this all done, I fired the whole piece to 06 because I previously fired my bisque piece to an 04, witness cone 04. So when I fire it and I finish, it comes out like this. Now, you can, like I said, if you think you don't have enough luster on your mother of pearl, you could go back, put more mother of pearl on it, and fire it again to 018. Witness cone 018. I do encourage you to use witness cones because nobody really knows how hot your kill gets. Yes, it will turn off, but that doesn't mean your heat was even in your kill, and that's what you want. When you, and I'm cautioning you about this, I'm sure those of you who do your own firing understand. Do not take your piece out of the kill when the top of the kill is still hot. You can vent it a little bit, but make sure that it is warm. If you want to, you can take it out. But remember, the top of the kill is going to be cooler than the bottom. So when you reach in to get this piece, reach in with a mitt on your hand. If you can feel the heat coming through that mitt, set the piece back down, prop the lid a little bit more, and leave it alone. I hope you enjoy doing this technique, and I hope you experiment with it. Glasner's has Astro Gems. I don't know how many shops are close to you. For those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Dragons to Dolls in Farmersville is your best bet. Paula Stover is the owner. She can order product for you. My name and information is at the bottom of the list of your lesson plan. You can call me, email me. I have a website. Anytime. I have a studio. I do not have a shop. But right here at the end, I have all my information: email, website, address, phone number, cell number. You can get in touch with me if you have any questions, and I will be happy to help you. I hope you enjoy this. I did, and thank you very much. How long did I go?